Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're looking at the mysterious births of Panchala. We're diving into a really fascinating transitional prologue from the Mahabharata, specifically section 167, the Chaicharata Parva. Now, this isn't just some bridge between chapters, no, it's a profound pivot point that totally redirects the entire narrative of the epic. We're going to see exactly how a seemingly ordinary evening of storytelling radically shifts the destiny of our main characters. Now, what's really interesting about this detail is this massive teaser dropped right into the middle of the text. Imagine sitting around a fire, just listening to some travel stories, and suddenly the speaker casually mentions a royal birth that happened entirely, and I quote, without the intervention of a woman, right in the middle of a great sacrifice. It's an absolutely spectacular supernatural hook. And to understand how we get to this explosive revelation, well, we need to set the scene. So let's get into section 1, Return to Ekachakra. The calm before the storm. To really grasp how we get to this supernatural twist, we have to look at the Pandavas' current status quo. As you probably know, our heroes are currently living in exile, completely hidden from the broader political world, just taking shelter in a quiet town. In the recent past, they literally just slew the fearsome Rakshasa Baka. That was a moment of intense action and mortal danger. But in the present, they're just dwelling peacefully in Ekachakra, staying at the home of a hospitable Brahmana. And their daily routine is honestly incredibly calm. They, along with their mother Kunti, are just spending their days quietly studying the Vedas. It's this scholarly, peaceful routine completely removed from the chaos they just came from. But as always happens, this quiet, repetitive existence is suddenly interrupted. A wandering Brahmana of rigid vows arrives at the exact same house to take up quarters. Their host, who is described in the text as a bull among Brahmanas, is deeply committed to hospitality, so he welcomes this newly arrived guest with all the due ceremonies and gives him a place to stay. Now, this might just look like a standard cultural exchange of hospitality, but it's actually the catalyst for literally everything that follows. Which brings us to section 2, the wandering storyteller, news from the outside world. For the Pandavas, who are totally isolated and hiding out, this new lodger is essentially their only link to the outside world. Naturally, they, along with Kunti, eagerly beg the newcomer to share his experiences. And man, the Brahmana delivers. He shares this sprawling, highly detailed travelogue. We're talking various countries, sacred shrines, holy rivers, reigning kings, wonderful provinces, and distant cities. It lulls the Pandavas, and honestly us reading it, into this comfortable rhythm of mundane, earthly geography and politics. Basically a standard recap of a traveler's journey. But then we hit section 3, Miraculous Births of Panchala, the inciting incident. This is where the tone completely flips. This is the exact moment the source text shifts from your standard travelogue to something absolutely extraordinary. The Brahmana wraps up his stories of, rivers and cities, and then just casually drops this incredibly dense package of massive news about the illustrious King Drupada, also known as Yajna. He details a wonderful self-choice ceremony, a swayamvara, for the princess of Panchala. But even more shocking, he rattles off a series of highly unusual royal births, the births of Dhrishtadyumna, Sikhandi, and finally Krishna, who is better known as Draupadi. And this brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast the text is trying to make here. On one side, you have your normal royal lineages, the standard succession of kings and queens that the Brahmana was just talking about 5 minutes ago. But on the other side, you have these specific figures in Panchala who bypassed normal human biology entirely. Draupadi's birth is explicitly described as happening without the intervention of a woman, right at a great sacrifice. It's a profound, supernatural disruption of the natural order. Moving right along to section 4, the unanswered questions, the cliffhanger. Unsurprisingly, hearing these wild facts about King Drupada, the Pandavas' curiosity just absolutely explodes. They are desperate to know the details. I mean, just like us, they can't let a story like that just sit there unexamined. Once the Brahmana finishes his initial narration, they barrage him with questions. They fire off this first one, directly probing the supernatural mechanics. How, O Brahmana, did the birth of Dhrishtadyumna, the son of Drupada, take place from the sacrificial fire? They literally want to know the mechanics of how a fully formed prince could just emerge directly from the flames of a sacrifice. And they don't stop there. They immediately follow up with the next mystery. How, also, did the extraordinary birth of Krishna take place from the center of the sacrificial platform? Notice the specific geometry they're asking about here. She wasn't just born at the sacrifice, but she manifested right from the very center of the platform. The Pandavas are completely captivated by the physical reality of this miracle. Then, the questions shift from the supernatural to the highly practical and martial. They ask, how also did Drupada's son learn all weapons from the great bowman Drona? Now, this deepens the mystery significantly. Drona is a legendary master of weapons, so how on earth did this fire-born son manage to become a student of such a revered and powerful teacher? Which brings us to the absolute climax of their interrogation. They ask, and O Brahmana, how and for whom and for what reason was the friendship between Drona and Drupada broken off? This is a massive political question. It reveals a deep underlying tension. These magical births, they aren't just isolated miracles. They are deeply tied to a fractured friendship between a great king and a master warrior. The Pandavas can clearly sense that this broken bond is the real engine driving these supernatural events. So how does the source text handle this incredible buildup? With an absolutely masterful cliffhanger. The text simply concludes, thus questioned, O monarch, by those bulls among men, the Brahmana narrated all the particulars about the birth of Draupadi. And you guys, this section ends right there. It confirms the storyteller gives them the answers, sure, but it completely withholds those actual answers from us. It perfectly sets up the grand, sweeping chapter of the epic that is about to follow. It literally leaves us dangling right on the edge of a massive revelation. We transition from a quiet study of the Vedas in a remote town directly into a tangled web of broken friendships, magical births, and destiny. So, I'll leave you with this to ponder. What grudges and promises truly lie hidden in the roaring fires of Drupada's sacrifice? Well, that is exactly where this story takes us next. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next chapter.